I'm Merrill Powell. I was vice president of Victress Manufacturing. It produced a series of sports car bodies. And on my right is Pat Boyce-Smith, the widow of Doc, who founded the company. On my left is Joan Dawes and her daughter, Deborah. Joan's husband founded LaDawri, which bought Victress in 1961. What else could I say?
Well, let's just go through some of the brochures. We can start off with this Victress brochure. Just tell us, you can go through the pages and anything that comes to mind. Maybe you want to explain some of the models or some of the people or the characters or any stories you remember.
The only stories I can remember are Doc's dreams. And that was the beginning of the S1 and the S1A. It started out in the backs of garages where they were produced handily, strictly by hand. There were mentors involved. There were people who supported Doc. It was his dream. And he produced automobiles for a while. We had a delicious, quote unquote, producing automobiles. I say that because brochures were sold and the money that came in from the brochures supported our Saturday lunches.
And sometimes during the week.
And the IRS should not know anything about this. This is strictly between us kids.
Of course it is.
The rest of the story goes in fact that we were successful in producing Victress bodies. We did move on to include other items in the line. Not only car bodies, but a little bit into the aerospace, a little bit into the plane aviation industry. I cannot say more. I'll pass the hat to Merrill Powell.
Well, in addition to having a line of car bodies, Victress Manufacturing Company also was a job shop. And we produced a variety of things, from the little fat man that was Bob Big Boy symbol, the Jansen swimsuit diving girls that were mounted outside the Jansen offices in downtown LA. We made golf cart bodies. We made fiberglass caskets for the funeral industry. As Pat said, we did some things for commercial aviation, radar domes for on-mark engineering that did a conversion of the A-26 attack bomber to an executive aircraft. We made parts for the first supersonic tow target for the Navy. So, a tremendous variety of things.
Don't forget the rings for the Olympics.
The rings for the 1960 Winter Olympics at Squaw Valley. Anyway, and I'm sure that there are other things that I can't think of right off.
Yeah. Well, do you want to go to the brochure and go through some of those things?
Well, on the cover here is the original Victress S1, which later was slightly modified. Wheelbase was shortened to make the S1A, which was designed by Doc and Hugh Jorgensen. The S4 was Hugh Jorgensen designed, and it was made to fit full-size Ford frames. The S5 here was a smaller version of the S1, shortened and narrowed to fit in MG. And this was the dragster, which we really did because a couple of our young employees were hot rod nuts and built a dragster. Later on, we We did 2 coupes. This is one of them, but on the LaDawri brochure. But this was, we called it the C3, and we made a smaller version, the C2, which was an MG size. The larger cars, the S1A and the C3, were made 99-inch wheelbase to fit the Curtis 500 KK chassis, which was quite popular, but rather expensive.
Yeah, Frank did have a lot of shop work that he had to pay for.
We also did a little work for on Indy race cars, glassing the outside of the aluminum gas tanks.
Right.
And that's another little
And
thing.
met, I don't know if you got involved, but we met quite a few of the Indy racers. That's where Don Freeland came in,
Oh, yeah.
that was the driver for Indy. Doc knew him. Manuel of Yulo was the driver for Indy. Unfortunately, both these guys, I think, wrapped themselves around the wall. Knew him before then, of course. Just a little vignette popped into mind. I'll pass the wand again.
Okay, I think we can pass this on to Joan.
Okay, I will pick up with kind of the beginning of LaDawri.
Sure.
It started in Canada. The original car was built. We were living in a very tiny little house with 2 babies. Debbie, one of them, and her older sister was only 22 months older than her. And so our place didn't have a garage, but they had a garage across the alley. So Les rented that, and that's where he started his car. And working on it after work, and all night long, mostly.
Where did he work during the day?
He was selling cars.
Selling cars.
Yeah. And I can't remember exactly when he started it. Probably in 1954 is when he started. I mean, it was in his head long before that.
Can you tell us about that?
When I met him on our first date,
Mm-hmm.
he told me, "I'm going to build a car."
All right.
And I, "Sure you are, buddy. Everybody builds cars. Why not?" But he started talking about it, and he was.
Was he always drawing them, or?
No, he did things more visually, and he would make little clay models, and would start small and would get bigger, and he ended up with a quarter scale model. And by that time, our first little girl was, maybe 6, 7 months old, and we took a picture with her sitting behind the car, and it looked like she was in it. Unfortunately, we displayed those pictures at the P&E when we first displayed our car, and somebody thought they would like to have it. And those are the only copies we had. So I never did find those, and they were precious.
Yes.
And so the car was actually finished. I'm not remembering the year. Let's see. When did we do the car show? And
56.
P&E was in 56.
Mm-hmm.
Debbie was also born in 56. Yes, now I remember. You were just a baby.
Yeah, she was the baby in 56, right?
No, I remember Les was driving his, they have a parade before the P&E, and Les was driving his car in the P&E, and I was following in someone else's car, sitting in the back seat, nursing her.
That's great.
Little details of, nobody needs to know.
I won't tell anybody.
Heavens no. And so the car was exhibited in the P&E,
What is the P&E?
Pacific National Exhibition in Vancouver, Canada. It's held every year, and I guess keeps getting bigger and bigger. And that year they had an automotive section, I forget the name of it. He sent Geoff the article on it, so you can probably dig that one up.
Yep. Yeah.
And so it was exhibited there. So that was July. 6 months later is when we sold everything, packed up. He says, we're going to California, we're going to start a business. Okay. I have a sister in California. Since we're Canadian, and of course we couldn't just pack up and go to the United States, we had to get sponsored, and she sponsored us, and we got all our paperwork done, and moved to California to build sports cars. And so we arrive in Long Beach, and we says, this is Long Beach? We expected something totally different, but we stayed, and that's where he set up his first little shop. It was an old dry cleaning plant that just was a mess. But it had all these divided little rooms, and it was perfect for building his cars. He had a car in each little room. And so that was our beginning.
And where did you live at that time?
In Wilmington. Contrary to what it says on the internet, we did not live on top of the shop. Because there was no living quarters there.
That's why I asked the question. To clarify the little details. Yes.
Yeah. So, let me see, where do I go from there?
Can you back up a little bit, back to the P&E if you would. What were people's reaction to the car at that time?
Oh, they loved it.
Yeah.
They were all over it. And newspapers, they took it out front, moved it out of the building and put it out on the lawn, and that's where those pictures came from. Newspapers took those with Les and I. And they were amazed.
Yeah. So those pictures were actually the street you were living on at the time. The ones you took after the...
And
was it similar reaction to what you saw today?
oh yeah.
Yeah. Does it bring back some memories?
Oh yeah. A whole lot.
Yeah.
He wanted to manufacture cars in Canada. That was his goal.
Yeah.
But the market just wasn't up there.
Sure.
And from all the car magazines, it was California. You gotta go to California. So by
How exactly did you get down?
that was a fun trip. We loaded our 2 babies and whatever clothes would fit into that little sports car, and that's all we took, nothing else. And headed south.
That's a pretty small car, isn't it?
Yes. We had 2-year-old in the seat. It had a console down the middle, so we could pack pillows on there. And a 2-year-old could sit there. Debbie was on my lap. Diapers are packed all around.
Protected.
And we weren't an hour down the freeway before the hardtop blew off. We're off to a good start.
Did you rescue it?
Oh yes, yep, he got it. I don't know how he got it attached, but he got it attached. And we were off again. Oh, we were used to that. He lived in Canada, but it was summer. It was summertime. So this was July of '57.
Oh, okay.
No, actually, it wasn't July, it was March of '57. And
Anything else happen on the way down?
yeah, we had a good trip until we got to Portland. Then the steering wheel comes off from Les's hands, driving down the road like this. And I really can't remember what he did or how we got it fixed. I think I was just in shock. I was ready to get out and walk home by then and take my babies with me. But my brother lived not too far from where we were. So we went on down to his place and Les did some work on his car before we moved on. And so we ended up in Southern California, and there that's started the business.
Yeah. So, how soon or how did Les get this car on the front cover of a prominent magazine so quickly?
Well, he went up and asked. You don't ask, you don't get.
Oh, that's my dad.
He was a very good promoter.
Yes.
And he just went up there, he says, "You've got to see this. I've got something that isn't in your magazine yet."
Wow.
And so they were taking pictures right then and there.
Wow.
And it really gave us a boost.
I
You know,
bet.
that gave us our start.
So what happened when the magazine came out? Do you remember?
No, because I doubt if we even had a brochure ready to send out.
I bet you did that first one.
Yeah, that
The
little
yellow one.
dinky one.
Yeah.
And, you know, we just kind of threw it together so we had something to hand out.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to remember back, I've talked to Geoff a lot,
Mhm.
and the more he talks to me, the more things I remember.
Sure.
But I really can't remember shipping the molds down, us shipping the molds down, and I really think that he pulled the molds off the car
Mm-hmm.
and just made
Remember-
new ones.
Yeah, do you remember waxing the car?
Yeah, lots of coats of wax on there, and so we had to have pulled the molds
Okay.
off of that.
And left the original set of molds up there?
Up there, yeah.
Wow.
And I don't know what happened to them. From there, I don't know.
Sure.
But
Well, they're
it's-
hard to destroy. They have to be around somewhere. That's interesting.
Oh, I doubt it. In fact, I called my niece because Geoff was wanting pictures of the garage, the original garage.
Yeah.
And so I asked my niece to drive by there
Mhm.
and see if it's still there. Nothing's there.
Nothing's
It's gone.
Yeah, sure.
And so I know we didn't leave them in there. And I can't ask Les, so that's going to remain a mystery.
Yeah, so we know there was one brochure before this one.
Yes, a
Yeah, so
small
this
one.
is Probably our second brochure then. Meet the Conquest. So going through this, what can you tell us about that? Anything stand out or anything?
Okay, well, this was our one and only car, so the whole brochure was based on one car.
Mm-hmm.
And that's from there the company grew. What else is in here? I haven't seen one of these
Really?
for years and years, 50 years.
Yeah.
But for a guy just starting up, you get a pretty good brochure.
Yeah.
And,
For one car, it's several pages about the.
right. And I was his secretary. I took all the dictation in the middle of the night. His brain worked the best.
There isn't it, Pat?
I remember all the dictation in the middle of the night too.
And then I would type it up and he would change it all and then I'd type it again and he'd change it some more. He'd been around. That the covers are reversed.
From year to year, right?
I don't know. From day to day.
This
maybe.
car, this car faces that way, and in this picture it faces the opposite direction. But the picture's still the same.
Now, did you have to go out and hire professional models?
Oh, definitely. Joan Dawes and Lorena, what was her name at the time? My niece is Lorena.
Okay, who is who?
Okay, I'm on the car, and that's my niece. She was visiting from Canada, and she's maybe 16 years old, or 15 about that time.
Okay.
And she's quite thrilled to have her picture on the front of the brochure.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
tried to talk her into coming down to the show.
Yeah.
I said, that would be good history. She has lots of good memories of this car.
Okay.
She says, she remembers she was babysitting for me one night, and Celeste drove her to school the next day, and her teacher scolded her. Les drives really fast. So her teacher was scolding her for picking up rides with strangers in these fast cars. She said, no, it's my uncle.
Was there anybody else famous in these brochures?
There's a little girl in there.
On the inside, this is back at the shop. My sister and I was 4 or 5, she was 6. And
Let's see.
we are,
So we've always wondered, who are these children? So who's sitting in the seat?
this is myself,
Okay.
this is myself, this is the two of us together. in what they call a huge capacity trunks.
Uh-huh.
I guess to show that kids could fit back there.
That's how we got you down in California.
Don't tell me that, because I don't remember, and I might have to
First
believe it.
generation car seat.
Right?
One memory I do have about the shop was fiberglass, which is extremely bad. I was always cold, and that's why in the picture we're wearing jackets,
Oh, okay.
and the fiberglass would just itch me everywhere. And so I'd always escape the shop and go in the front with Mom, where it was nice and clean, and I was warm. I was happy.
Now, are these memories from the Canal Street address?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
I think the front, isn't that Long Beach?
This is Long Beach. This is the Long Beach Yacht Harbor. Where this was
Okay.
taken.
All right.
And there was a few more pictures at the back I saw.
Now, who's, do you know, Joan, who the lady is here?
Okay. This car was owned by, there's a little description in the brochure
Mhm.
on who owned the car. It was his car, he had built it.
Okay, is that the
And-
major?
Yes, Major Furman, and this was his wife,
Okay.
the car.
So did they complete the car and they sent you guys pictures, or did they stop by?
No, I think they came down,
Oh,
and I
right.
think Les took these pictures, or had a photographer come in.
We've never tried to find them. We probably can.
Yeah.
Savannah, Georgia, 50 years ago.
Sure.
But we have a Pennsylvania license plate, it looks like,
Wow.
so that would be fun.
Yes.
Let's see, this one here did. Oh, no. Do you know who those are?
No. Oh,
What is this?
are those the workers that work with Dad?
Yeah, one is,
Red?
no, that's his son. That's his son, Dick Honeywell.
Yes.
There's your
I
dad.
remember him. Oh, that's Dad, right there.
And there's, I don't know, it's another employee, I don't know his name. Out of all the employees that come and went, I can only remember one name, and that was Jim Wilson. And Geoff did get a hold of his wife. Jim Wilson had passed away.
Okay.
And he probably stayed with us the longest, he was from Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear when he died, he had a Corvette.
Oh.
He didn't have a Conquest, he had a Corvette.
This is a good picture of my father when he was lifting the mold to show how light it is. I believe that's what he was doing.
The mold of the body.
Can I
Oh,
get
yeah.
through
Body.
here?
The body, yeah, and he's holding it over one shoulder.
Can we?
Come here, he's cut me off here.
This is
All
interesting,
right,
John.
so tell us about the dealer thing you just were talking about.
We didn't have dealers, but he was trying to get dealers set up.
Wow.
And so that was the first that came out. And, well, no, I think the poster,
This one here.
yeah, I think that came out first.
Hold that one on.
This was sent directly to businesses trying to attract dealerships.
Really?
Yeah.
For businesses? Okay.
That's what it was, that was what it was designed
Now,
for.
in reading the ledger book, you sold bodies directly to automotive type of shops,
Mhm.
speed shops, basically. You think that was the result of sending those out?
Could be, but they didn't, they just ordered the one for themselves. They didn't order more.
Right,
So obviously they didn't work as dealers.
right. Yeah. It's a great poster, it's very rare. How many of those do you think were made? These posters?
I really don't know.
Yeah.
I thought I didn't have one, and then I was cleaning out a cupboard the other day, and I found 2 or 3 that weren't in very good shape. But I have them.
So you just threw them out?
No, no. eBay.
Oh, right, nice.
No, no, I gotta keep them.
I had to pay $75 for my poster.
You got rid of that.
I know.
We sent these to the dealers free.
I know. But they aren't out
They
there.
pay $1.
Yeah, they aren't out there, that's the problem, you can't find them, so. But I never saw this one. I've never seen that one. What year is this one?
This should be 57, I think.
Is it, or 58?
No, maybe it's 58. What do you think?
I would say, because the first little one,
The yellow paper
that's
one.
all we could afford
Right.
at the beginning.
Was that the yellow one that I sent you pictures of?
Mhm. And then we came, well, must make a little bit of money, print that one.
Sure.
What models are shown in that one?
That's just the Conquest.
Just the
Okay, so that makes it,
And the title of it is Meet the Conquest,
okay.
which is actually, I think, maybe not the article in this one, but it's an article in a different magazine. Let me see. That's where you got the idea. Did you have any luck with dealerships?
Dealerships?
Yeah. Said you.
Doc, before I joined him, had made some arrangement with Helling's company, manufactured air cleaners, among other things, but principally air cleaners, I think. Later became Stelling and Helling's. And I think maybe 4 to 10 cars sold through Helling's. And I believe Helling's sold chassis. They in turn put their bodies on chassis because the Johnny Dark car, which was belonged to Virgil Rice, who was manager of Helling's company, and at least one other car were sold by Helling's with frames. And so, but after we incorporated, we didn't go through Helling's anymore.
Oh, that's got to get rid of your tongue. You know what they say.
Now, the coupon, the front cover, is that. What do you know about that? Who designed that?
Oh, well, that was my design, and this is, we called it the C3, Castilian?
Custodian.
Okay. We did the C2 first, a smaller version, which was designed to fit MG-size cars. And then after we pulled the molds off the plaster mock-up, we split the mock-up down the middle, widened it 80 inches, and then lengthened it 4 inches in the hood and 4 inches through the cockpit, through the cabin, and then recontoured it, of course, and that was the C3.
What do you want to point out on the car? The style
Oh, well,
or anything like that?
the grill is, was designed to take a 55 Chevy, which was the first production car to have the egg crate grill, which the Italians had made very popular. Prior to that, we laboriously made a few grills, sawing them out of aluminum and slotting them on the bandsaw to make the egg crate. And Chevy came out, and Doc says, "Oh, we got to do that. You know, that's the grill. We're going to, when we do the coupe, we're going to make it fit that grill." And of course, the C2 was a shortened grill, and the C3 took a full-size grill.
Okay. And the windshields?
I don't recall what the what windshield and rear window we used, but that's in the record somewhere.
Yes,
I think probably people on your website have come up with that.
Just through trial and error.
Yeah.
How about the rear wheel opening? What's shown there?
Well, this rear wheel opening has been modified, I believe. The original, the top of the wheel well was parallel to that belt line, the crease down the side. I think a number of people mounted the bodies a little too low on the chassis in an attempt to get lower overall height, and then have found that they had to cut the wheel wells larger to allow for wheel bounce and for the front wheels turning. the car in this brochure has a beautiful grill on the side, and I'd love to know what that came from. It looks like a Ferrari.
Mhm.
We didn't have a scoop in the hood either. This hood scoop was added on.
Okay,
So,
so you didn't have hoods with hood scoops?
only on the S1 and the S5.
Okay. And then there's some other things in LaDawri, the other little red brochures that you were pointing out earlier.
Are we gonna get our grill out of here? Good.
Oh, I see, this is a little difference in the brochure that I saw. I guess it's the same thing. Can you tell me who those,
Oh, okay, here's, this is a picture of the
I don't know.
pickup truck bed cover that we designed to fit the Falcon Ranchero pickup truck. And that's my partner Doc there with the truck. And then we came up with a tent that fitted over the open top. And the model here in the picture is Betty Blue, who was a Playboy playmate and a friend of ours.
excellent. No,
Found some good models.
trying to find the patent information that you told me about.
Oh, yeah, we did not patent the design, but after we sold the company to Les, it was found out that someone had already stolen the design, and someone up in the Bakersfield area, and was manufacturing the top, which we designed. So Les decided that if we patented, or if it was patented, then he could sue this guy. So he asked us to do all of the drawings and literature on it. Doc wrote the literature, I did the drawings. Les applied for the patent and got it in our names with assignment to LaDawri. And Joan, I don't know whether he ever recovered any money from that guy or not.
I don't even think he sued. But he was glad he had a patent. He was glad he had a patent.
Yeah.
I used to see one running around Van Nuys every once in a while, just a few years ago.
Yeah, and that's the patent that we did look up, and that's everything you said was validated on the internet. So
Yeah, I'm surprised.
yeah, and the other patent that we discovered in the process of looking that one up is this one right here. You see there, Joan.
That's the patent on the conquest.
Did we know about this one?
I did.
You did?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
This was a complete surprise to us.
Well, I told Geoff that we had a patent, and I've been looking for it ever since, and I can't find it.
Okay.
But it's there.
Yeah.
I thought when I moved.
But that's it, isn't it, the one you were looking for?
This is the one.
It consists of one page.
Oh, no, there's a whole bunch of pictures.
Oh.
Yeah, there's some other
This is the beginning.
information. Now, should we go into the ledger books? I just want to have you look at these books. These are real treasures to us. And,
Antiques.
yeah, they're antiques. We're so happy to have them. We just wanted you to validate that these are the books, and go through and tell us what you think, and maybe you can give us some insight.
See who Conquest number 1 belongs to.
Let's see if it's in here.
That was it.
See who Conquest number 1. Joan was always, we were joking with John because it's all Joan's writing in there. I
Oh,
said, well, now that I have the car, can you put in there number 1? And so she was going to put my name in there, number 1.
Is that the first one or the second one?
61.
Yeah, it's 60, I guess.
It picks up, from best I can tell, the date that when Victress entered the picture.
Ah,
Because all the Victress products start off at very low numbers, 1, 2, 3.
this is
So these are the combined company books.
okay. This is March 1960. at the top of this one here.
It's a
Which-
little before.
Okay,
Yeah.
and that's before that one. I think these books started when we moved to our shop to Los Alamitos.
Oh, okay.
And I can't remember what year we moved, but I kind of think that these books kind of indicate the time.
Okay. And, you know, you have a code in here of sorts for the models and the numbering system. Can you tell us about that?
Okay, I was not a bookkeeper at this time, but I did the books, so, so I set up my own systems here.
Sure.
I put little codes. S16 was the 16th Sicilian that we had built. No, I take that back. SIC is Sicilian.
Mhm.
S is Sebring.
Okay, yeah.
Sebring S10, S16. That's two Sebrings. SIC 3, that's the third Sicilian. D23, that's a Daytona. There's a 128, there's no code on it, I presume it's a conquest.
Right, Conquest is just numbers.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting, yeah. So was there 128 conquests? Or was there,
I think they start, one of the book shows the Conquest started off like 70 or 90.
okay,
One of the two books. You have to go back and look.
yeah.
I'm looking for a different one, I see. CAB1, that would be a Cavalier, which is, it's a Victress model.
Mm-hmm.
The Cavalier was what? The S1?
S4.
S4.
How about the Centurion?
I don't
Okay.
remember a code for
Okay,
that.
there, oh, I see, there's Cavalier, okay.
So in the books also, there's a bunch of codes that we think correspond to this brochure. All the LaDawri replacement parts price list. These codes, and sometimes those show up in the books, I think.
You know, we had all these parts.
It's pretty impressive.
I think he did. I think he decided I'll get them if I get an order for one.
How could I imagine you got to see that? What's that mean?
And it looks like you sold some of that, because some of those codes show up.
What is it? It's black.
Yeah, we had some of them, but I don't think we had all of them.
Sure. Was Les kind of a wing it kind of,
Mhm.
yeah? So I'd see this fans kind of guy?
Mhm.
Yeah. But a workaholic at the same time.
Who do you think would load his kids into a sports car
How
and head
long,
off to California with no place to go?
how long did he consider this decision?
Probably a week. Sometimes we decided things over lunch. We were doing it by the afternoon.
Now you moved a lot. Were those decisions made about the same?
Over lunch.
You were packing by the afternoon.
Right. We took trips to Canada over lunch.
Yes.
We were out the door by 4 o'clock the next morning.
Wow.
Debbie can verify all that.
Oh, wow.
Many nights I remember getting woke up at 2 or 3 in the morning. Come on, let's get dressed. It's time to go. Go where? We're going on a trip.
Yeah, he acted on impulse.
Do you generally have good instincts?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Don't remember any really big boo-boos.
Do you remember whose car this is?
That's Les's.
That's us. Okay.
And this one is boggling me because I don't remember owning the two of them. It may have belonged to someone else in our shop. We had an employee, Red Honeywell, who was very good and very experienced, an elderly gentleman.
When did you hire him?
I can't tell you that, but he was one of our first employees.
Okay, he was one of your first
Yeah.
employees. Okay. Was he working in the boat industry down there?
Probably,
Fiberglass?
probably before he worked for Les.
Okay.
I just came across something that's interesting that I wasn't aware of. It's a code, and it shows that LaDawri fabricated the cars in 3 different manners. The basic strength, it says here, gunshot mat only, part constructed with flexible isophthalic resin for the lowest cost part built today. Medium strength, basic strength plus all stress areas reinforced with 10-ounce chrome-filled fiberglass cloth. Recommended for an economical construction, maintaining adequate strength for all-around use. And maximum strength, the total construction is hand laminated with 10-ounce chrome-filled cloth for a lifetime of durability and freedom from major accident damage, commensurate with the fantastic strength of such a laminate.
There you go.
That's kind of interesting. Victress started out, and for many years, only hand laminated using a 6-ounce cloth, 1.5 ounce mat, and another layer of 6-ounce cloth. 6 ounces per yard for cloth and 1.5 ounce mat per foot, so that's why the difference there. And made a very strong, lightweight body. Probably around 1959, we started using a chopper gun, which was more work than it was worth in the beginning, because the chopper guns were very primitive, as you recall that.
Les was
And
very-
they were down more than they
They
were
would-
functioning.
Clogged up,
Yeah.
so it would stop the whole production.
Was he not happy with using them? Would he rather do the handling
He'd
stuff?
rather do the hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you were talking earlier about your production process and how it was fairly well set up. You cut all the patterns out and then
Oh,
have
yeah.
all those ready. Can you tell us about that?
Okay, the cloth and mat were cut to exact patterns. The cutting table was set up with a formica top, and at one end was a rack with a roll of cloth at the bottom, a roll of mat in the middle, and another roll of cloth at the top. And we would pull out the layer of cloth, the mat, and the cloth,
Okay.
put down the patterns,
Mm-hmm.
working them out so that there was a minimum of waste, and cut them out with the utility knife, cutting down through all 3 layers.
Right.
And then these would be rolled up and labeled with a piece of tape, and it's written on as to what part it was. Each piece we had knew exactly how much resin it would take to laminate that particular part. And so we didn't have any waste, and we didn't wind up with either a laminate that was too dry or was resin heavy. The laminating process was interesting. Again, all of this had been worked out by Doc before I joined the company. We'd pull out I had a roll on the laminating table. I had a roll of polyvinyl chloride film, sort of, not celluloid, but sort of like a clear vinyl, saran wrap nowadays. And we pull that out, lay out the part, lay out the cloth piece on that. Generally, we're talking about substantial size pieces, like the side of a car body or the hood section. Lay out the cloth, pour the measured catalyzed resin on it, put the mat down on it, and the second layer of cloth, and distribute the resin as evenly as possible over that. And we wash our hands. Two guys would grab this sheet of vinyl with the laminate on it, cross hand, pick it up, and flip it over into the mold. And then we'd Vaseline our hands, Vaseline the inside of the PVC film, and then using micarta paddles, which were sort of egg-shaped, to fit into nooks and crannies, flat on one side. Then we would start in the middle and work the resin and any air out towards the edges, until we had the laminate, the resin completely distributed and eliminated all air. And we had to be very careful not to get Vaseline into the resin because that would prevent it from setting. And then we'd peel off the PVC layer and throw it away. Of course, kind of getting ahead of myself, the gel coat went in first. First, waxed the molds, sprayed in the polyvinyl alcohol, PVA, parting agent, and when that was dry, then we'd do a gel coat of just highly catalyzed resin, very hot mix, and brushed it in, let it set, and then we did the laminating process that I described. Also, back in those days, we used not only the catalyst, but an accelerator. Later, the resin manufacturers put the accelerator in the resin. But we used a table that Doc had worked out as how much of catalyst and accelerator to use based on the ambient temperature. We used a constant amount of catalyst and then varied the accelerator, cobalt naphthenate, according to how much time we needed for that particular part and what the temperature was. So, if it was down near freezing, why we used a lot of accelerator and the parts came out pretty purple. If it was up in the 90s, why same amount of catalyst, but very, very little accelerator. So anyway, we were able to produce high quality parts and very little waste that way.
Yeah. Now, I talked to a couple of guys on the phone that Les made a couple of these bodies, and Formula Libre, and when they watched him lay fiberglass, they were amazed. They'd never seen somebody that just used their fingertips and didn't get very dirty at all. What do you remember about how he laid up the bodies?
I didn't pay that much attention. I mean, I'd stand and watch him, but
It was just what he did.
it's just what he did. That's
You
right.
never got your hands dirty?
I did.
No way.
I remember.
You remember?
I was around 5 and Daddy's little girl, I wanted to help him. And he'd say, okay, he showed me and I had my fingers and I remember a little soft matte, sort of rubber thing. And he'd say, rub, and I'd rub, and I remember sticky, it must have been the resin,
Yes.
that's sticky, and then you'd have to
It was like he was
scrape it.
painting a canvas.
Yeah.
I remember him going back
Do
and
that
forth
back
like
and forth.
this.
Then you'd have
Do
to
it in a pattern.
scrape it real tight, and I would think it's beautiful. No, do it again. Okay. And again, and he was such a perfectionist,
Yeah.
But I do remember he used to bring us in, and he wanted us to be part of it and see what he does, and got our fingers dirty. I remember that. It's amazing.
I didn't know that he did that.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So you would call him a perfectionist?
Oh, absolutely. We do.
Yeah. You know, the things that,
That's why I was critiquing it hard today,
Yeah.
because he'd be most upset to see a car
Little gaps here.
in the concours.
yeah, something that wasn't perfect.
That wasn't
Mhm.
perfect.
Right. You know, it's funny when George Barris came by and was noticing the car, and you know, I pointed out a few things to him that I had seen, that he really admired the car and the lines, and you know, saw some really nice work that Les had done back when. And, you know, one of the things I pointed out on the line was the you know, how the swirl comes around the opening and then disappears and just fades in there. And you know, this magazine article talks about how the casual observer would probably miss most of the cues in here, just little details that you know, we've come to appreciate over the years. But most people just look at the cars. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
nice. nice
yeah,
in
they
the car,
don't,
things
they
like
don't
that.
notice it.
And it's that level of detail that are not real common in this 1950s fiberglass sports cars. Just,
No,
really
it
appreciate that.
it had to be perfect.
Mhm.
He'd work all night long. He was a workaholic.
Yeah.
Come home, sleep for a couple hours, up, off again. He loved it.
Yeah.
He just lived it.
Yeah. Well, he was pretty much living his dream at that point.
He was, yeah, he was.
Yeah. You know, we have some people that have receipts and things from cars that were made at the factory.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember any of that?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think I typed them all.
Yeah.
I wrote the letters, I signed the letters.
Yeah. And that really was his dream, to actually make the cars whole and sell them, or just to make the bodies, and which way did he want to go? You mentioned earlier that he wanted to make the cars in Canada and things like that.
His original goal was to build cars, but after he built his first one, I think he realized how much work it was and decided, okay, let's go to build California and build kits. I gotta think that's where the process went.
Well, this one, you had, you know, wifing kids, and,
Right.
you know, the economic realities of,
Yeah, you have to be realistic.
yeah,
Well, at one point, he designed a car to take back to Canada to build up there, didn't he?
Yes.
A prototype car?
Yes, he did.
Okay, tell us about that.
Okay, let's see a brochure here.
The Vendetta.
yeah, I'm not sure that's gonna be in any of the brochures, so.
It is.
Closest we have is that one.
This design here is not one of Les's designs.
No, it's not.
No. The young man, and I can't remember his name, I remember an Adams, but I'm not sure if that's
Oh,
him.
that's right, yes.
He had designed it, and he just wanted one car.
TBS Racing?
Well, they got involved with him, but they're not the ones who designed it. They got a car body.
Clark Adams?
Clark Adams, that's the one.
Mm-hmm.
And he just wanted a car body. And so he could do the design, but he didn't know where to go from there.
Okay.
So he came down, he talked to Les, and they worked out a deal where Les would build him a car body. And in PBS, I don't remember their connection with Clark Adams, but they were building a racing car,
Yeah.
and they wanted a car body.
Right, when I talked to TBS Racing on the phone,
Oh, you've been in touch with them?
yeah, Clark Adams is actually in the same room. He's quite elderly. We got on the phone, but he wasn't able to communicate very well, so.
He had, he had a disability, I can't remember what it was. I think he had neck surgery, and his neck was frozen in the
Okay.
position that,
Sure.
that they put it in.
Right,
And his main thing was drafting and engineering,
okay,
but he couldn't do the physical
right.
part.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know what his connection was with PBS, but they knew him, and they wanted that car body.
Okay.
And so, from what I could be totally wrong, but I know that he built a car for PBS and Clark's car,
Mhm.
and then he could keep the mold. He built the mold for
Right,
them,
Right.
and then the car,
Mhm.
and then he could keep the mold.
Yeah.
And Les was so impressed with this car because it was like about this high.
Yeah.
And
So this body here, is that one of the PBS bodies?
yes, yeah,
Okay.
that's what they got.
Okay.
And so he took that model. That's when the business closed, that's the one model that he kept. And he built,
You kept that body or the mold?
The mold, the
You kept
mold,
those?
yeah.
Okay.
yeah, he didn't have a body, he had built them for them, but he didn't have one himself.
Mhm.
And so he had kept the mold, and then, when the business closed down, for some reason, and I still don't know why, he didn't keep his own molds, but he kept the coop molds. The big one and the small one.
Yeah.
With the Castilian?
Castilian and the Sicilian.
Oh,
We had that in our garage at the time he passed away. And I give them to my grandson because he was interested in building cars, Debbie's son. And he had him in storage,
Whose name is?
Jelani. And he had him in storage and didn't continue to pay the bill, and they had vanished. And he's trying to track them down, and I'm trying to track them down. But I think that in the meantime, the storage companies changed hands, so they don't know where they are.
Mhm.
So they're all
Mhm.
gone for good, probably.
Let's talk about how the business closed. I mean, declining sales of bodies and.
We had just overextended ourselves because, we moved to Los Alamitos,
Mhm.
a new shop, higher rent. We were living in, we had moved from, we were renting in Wilmington. We moved to Lakewood. We were renting a house there. We decided it was time, things were looking good, we were going to buy our own house. We bought a house in Los Alamitos. So we had new shop, new house, moved the business, and, we had bought Victress. We thought, great, all these models are going to sell like crazy. And the whole market changed. And the sales just didn't come in, so we just had more expenditure than we had income.
For a while there, I mean, there was a time, looking at the ledger books, that you were doing quite well.
Oh, we were doing
with-
very well.
With the Victress body.
Oh, when we started, yes,
Yeah.
with Victress.
Because that was your reaction, is that.
yes,
You guys sold.
yeah, looking through your ledgers the other day, you sold way more bodies of ours than we ever did.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that.
At least certainly of the coupes.
They were very popular, yeah.
And I don't recall how, but we kept very poor records, and what records, well, I shouldn't say we kept poor records. But for those days, we kept not bad records, not as good as your ledgers, but they're just individual sales books that collected, and unfortunately, they were all destroyed.
Yeah,
So
that's what happened.
we had no records, we didn't number our bodies,
No,
and
we didn't either,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah, but the thing we do have in the ledger books are people's names, the original buyer's names,
Mhm.
and then the number and the date in your ledger book. And so from that, what we've been doing is actually, if somebody can provide the name of the original owner,
Same little
we
claws,
can look
and
it
I
up,
cut them in
which
4 pieces.
body that is.
Yeah, at one point, and I had this,
Yeah.
at the time we moved, when Les passed away, and we were cleaning up the garage, I had it in my hands, but I don't know what happened to it. There's a ledger book that each customer had their own individual page, and it has their name and address and phone number, everything on it, and what they bought. And I'd love to find that, and I had it 4 years ago, so it's still, I'm sure, because I moved from San Jose within a week of Les's funeral.
Mhm.
And I moved up to Santa Rosa to be with my family up there.
Mhm.
And so I'm not the one who did the pack. The kids came in, everyone with grandkids, and everybody was doing something. So I don't know what they kept and what they didn't, but I'm sure they wouldn't have thrown something like that away.
Sure, yeah.
But I was amazed when Patrick found those ledger books, because I didn't know I had those. And that was a
Well, we
treasure.
look forward to the rest of the ledger.
Yeah, so I'd really like to find that book, because that was a special one.
Yeah.
I'd love to go through your books and find out how many of each kind of car body was sold.
Oh, we need somebody to do that.
And you're gonna do that, aren't you?
I thought you were gonna do that. Well, let's talk about Les made some improvements to the bodies after.
Okay, we did our door frames in plywood. And our firewall, when a customer would order the firewall, floorboards, wheel wells, and so on, they were done in 3/4 inch marine grade plywood. We would skin the plywood on, by a sheet of 4x plywood, skin it on both sides with a layer of cloth and resin. And once that was cured, then we'd lay out the parts and saw them out, bond them in, seal the edges with resin, and use a layer of mat and cloth on each side to bond the piece to the body.